From the FOX6 studios, this is Ask Contact 6. This is the segment where we bring in experts to answer your questions. The topic we've chosen for today is new and used auto sales. Every month, Contact 6 gets complaints about problems with car purchases, whether that's how the car is running, an allegation of misrepresentation, or a warranty issue. We received several submissions on this topic, and to answer your questions today, I have Susan Griskowiak from the Lemon Law Justice Center. Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Jenna.
Before we get started, I assume you get a lot of calls from consumers about all kinds of issues with their cars. What kind of cases can you take?
So typically the cases that I get involved with are lemon law claims where we're suing the car manufacturer because a new car has had problems. There's also a federal warranty law, the Magnuson-Moss Warranty Act, where if you're beyond the requirements of the Wisconsin lemon law, but you're still within your car's new warranty period, we can bring a claim against the manufacturer for the failure to repair your car within a reasonable time. Other cases may involve dealer fraud or misrepresentation related to the sale of the vehicle. Occasionally we have odometer issues come up or unauthorized repair situations that we also handle.
Well, thank you for sharing your knowledge with us here today. We're going to get to our viewer questions in a little bit. First, I want to say we did have to paraphrase or edit a couple of questions for clarity. Also, Susan will do her best to answer your questions today based on the information we have. But for more advice on your specific case, you may want to call a lawyer to discuss it in more detail. Let's get started. Reading our questions again today is our Contact 6 associate producer, Annette.
Hi.
Hi.
Yeah. So our first one comes from Jeffrey in Milwaukee. He writes, I got an oil change and 3 days later I heard knocking noises. I took it to mechanic and found out I need a new motor because they put the wrong oil in my car. So the question, what are my rights after a bad oil change?
I'm so glad Jeffrey sent this question because we hear about this probably every month at Contact 6. Does Jeffrey have rights in this situation?
He does. So the first thing to do is if you've taken it to another mechanic, get the documentation and make sure that they've made a documentation that it is the wrong oil and what they specifically found with the vehicle. Then the best thing is to go back to the shop that did the oil change, show them and share that documentation, let them know whether it's an oil change place or a dealership, they all have insurance policies. Things happen. Employees aren't perfect. There are going to be mistakes made in vehicle repairs. So they have an insurance company that you could file a claim with. And if you can't get anywhere with the shop or they're not willing to share their insurance information, which I do hear sometimes, you can contact our state Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection. They may be able to assist you in getting that information.
So it sounds like you should go to an independent mechanic instead of calling the business that did the oil change first?
If you're concerned about something that's happened, you can certainly go back to the shop that did the oil change. But in this situation, if he went elsewhere, that's fine too. It's good to have that independent documentation to show that there was indeed a problem and someone's not going to try to cover something up to hide their error.
And is it fair to say the consumer has the right to make this business resolve the problem at no cost to them?
Yes.
Okay. And does the business have a right to repair it? If they say you can't take it somewhere else, we're going to do it ourselves?
If they're able, yes, they could at no charge to the consumer. A lot of times I get calls on the instant oil change places and they aren't capable of a motor repair or something along those lines.
Okay. And when do you get a small claims case or a lawyer involved?
If you're not able to get any recourse, a lot of times if you do go to the state agency and file a complaint with them, they may make a recommendation if they're not able to help you get a resolution. You can always go to small claims court. You don't need a lawyer for that. All of the information's on the court website, and you can recover up to $10,000 in small claims court.
Okay. I hope everything works out with your car, Jeffrey. Thanks for that question. What do we have next, Annette?
This one comes from Karen in Hales Corner. She would like to know, how long is lemon law in effect after you purchase a vehicle?
So before we talk about how long it's in effect, can we talk about lemon law in general? Can you give us an overview of what vehicles are covered?
Sure. So our state lemon law covers only new vehicles. And you have to have either the same warranty problem 4 times and the problem continues, or it can be for any number of problems that your vehicle's out of service for repair for 30 days or more. It doesn't necessarily have to mean that it's sitting at the dealership. For instance, if you go in and they have to order a part and you have your vehicle back while waiting for the part and you're still having the problems, and then subsequently they repair it, but it's more than 30 days between visits, that could also qualify.
And what vehicles qualify? What about motorcycles, motor homes? Would they fall under lemon law?
Yes, we have a very strong lemon law in Wisconsin, so including recreational vehicles, motor homes, motorcycles. It does not cover anything that's not driven on the road. So, for example, ATVs or snowmobiles are not covered by our lemon law.
And you mentioned this before, but I do want to emphasize it. It applies to new vehicle sales in Wisconsin because often Annette and I will hear from people who say, I bought a used car and it's a lemon. That's a hard argument to make, right?
There is no argument for that. It's strictly applies to new vehicles and they have to be purchased in the state of Wisconsin.
Okay, I will add the Wisconsin DMV has a lemon law guide on their website and a form you can fill out there as well if you believe you've bought a lemon. And those are pretty detailed and helpful. What is our next question, Annette?
Yes, this one comes from Katrina in Milwaukee. She asks, if I buy a car off the lot and get it checked out 2 days later and find out there's motor problems, who's liable for the repairs? So the question, who is liable for repairs 2 days after a car purchase?
This is so frustrating for Katrina because 2 days later, you would think those problems existed before you bought the vehicle. Who is liable in this case?
So first, it depends on whether it's a new or used car. If it's a new vehicle and it's a warranty situation, then it would be the dealer and the manufacturer to repair it. If it's a used vehicle purchase and you have a problem immediately like that, then it would be potentially the dealer that sold it to you. So for our used vehicles in Wisconsin, dealers must do what's called a reasonable care inspection. And there are certain things that the state requires them to inspect and disclose. If it's a problem with the vehicle that is covered by the reasonable care inspection and they did not disclose the problem to you, you have to notify the dealer that you bought it from, and they have an obligation to repair it at no charge to you. Unfortunately, there are some scenarios where it's not required to be inspected or disclosed, and it's not covered by the requirements of the state of Wisconsin. So in that situation, it's kind of a buyer beware. One thing with used vehicles that people can do to avoid a situation like that, ask to take it to your own mechanic before you agree to buy a used car. If you have someone that you can take it to that you trust, they'll do an inspection and they'll let you know if they find any problems before you actually commit to purchasing it.
It's my understanding that in Wisconsin, dealers aren't required to do diagnostic tests. Is that right? So that wouldn't be covered by that reasonable expectation of inspection. So think like running issues with the engine and the transmission and so on. Is that correct?
So there's not much that covers the transmission. The engine does have requirements. So if there was an abnormal engine noise that was found during that inspection, they can do diagnostics and do more to find out what the cause of that abnormal noise is. So if it's something that's covered by that reasonable care inspection and they need to dig deeper, then that is something that can be done.
So would you recommend, Katrina, bring it back to the business that sold it to her and ask them to make a repair?
Absolutely. The first step would be to go back to the dealer that you bought it from, let them know you're having the problems and that it wasn't on the buyer's guide, that it was disclosed to you. If you have problems with getting them to honor that, the Wisconsin DMV does have a process where you can file a complaint with them against the dealer and provide documents and information to them. They will do an investigation and oftentimes can help resolve the situation without having to get a lawyer involved.
All right. Katrina, thank you for that question. Annette, who do we have next?
This one comes from Kim in Milwaukee. Kim says, I bought a used car in March with 41,000 miles on it. I've had it in for 2 oil changes. This time, they said I needed new tires. The car had recently been traded in, was a certified SUV, and only one owner had leased it. Unfortunately, they never said anything about the tires. What are my rights here? Can I bring it in? Can I bring it to their attention that they sold me a used car that needed tires? The new tires will be pricey. So Kim's question, am I entitled to new tires for my used car?
So this is a little different from the last question because Katrina's car had issues 2 days later. It sounds like this person's had this car long enough to have 2 oil changes. Is that important here?
It certainly can be because if there's a problem with a used vehicle, it has to be something that was present on the day you bought it. So tires do wear depending on the type of vehicle and the type of tire on it. And like we just talked about with the state required inspection, tires, there's very little that they have to do. They don't have to provide any information to you other than are they legal or not legal. And it doesn't really address tire tread depth or how much life is left on the tires. If this was a certified used vehicle, she would want to look at her certified papers because there may be something specifically there that would cover it. In the end, you can certainly go back to the dealer and let them know that you're unhappy, and they may be able to assist you or pay for part of the tire cost.
Could the dealer argue this is normal wear and tear at this point?
Certainly they could, yes.
Right. And could you, when purchasing the vehicle, use this as a bargaining chip? If you check the tires and say, hey, those look older, maybe that's something you could do to negotiate the car price?
Absolutely, or get them to replace their tires before you purchase it.
All right. I think that answers that question. Who do we have next? Brenda?
Brenda from New Berlin. She would like to know, what can you do if money was wired out of state for a car purchase and it was a scam? Is there any chance the money can be recovered? So the question here, can I recover money wired for a scam car purchase?
I'm sorry to hear about this, Brenda. Do people reach out to you about scams?
They do on occasion, yes.
Yeah. What do you tell them when it comes to getting money back?
Unfortunately, oftentimes, once the money's gone, it's gone and it can't be recovered. It's something that you could contact your bank that the money was wired from. They may have some kind of protection for you or assistance, but generally speaking, there's not much to be done, and you have to go to the state where that company is located, where you wired the money. You could try to file a complaint with the state agency there or the attorney general.
Right. And time is of the essence when it comes to a wire transfer in particular, because it can settle within minutes, and then the scammer is probably going to transfer it to another account. And these are not easy to trace. So if you can figure this out within minutes and talk to your bank, maybe, but this is one of those untraceable ways of sending money that we often run into at Contact 6, and it always breaks our heart to hear about it. So I'm sorry to hear about that, Brenda, but I'm not optimistic about getting that money back. Is that your feeling as well?
I agree.
All right. What do we have from Rick?
Rick is from Menominee Falls, and he writes, our pickup truck needs a turbo replacement, a timing cover replacement, and an exhaust manifold replacement. We're told this was a flawed design by the manufacturer, which was fixed years later. The repairs are $13,000. Is there any recourse? So the question here, do I have any recourse for a flawed design?
This is an interesting question because I didn't hear anything about a recall involved with this vehicle, just a flawed design that was fixed years later. What are your thoughts when you hear this question from Rick?
So the first thing is design defects are not covered by most warranty laws. The only thing that I would suggest is to contact the manufacturer of the vehicle if it is a known problem. Sometimes there are either extended warranties to cover those situations, or there might be a recall. So you can certainly contact an authorized dealer for that manufacturer. Even if none of those things exist, it doesn't hurt to call the manufacturer directly and let them know what you've learned about this being a known problem to see if they'll help assist cover the cost of the repairs.
And if they say no, is there another option?
Not that I'm aware of, no.
Okay. Now, this isn't an official recall, but if someone discovers an old recall, do those ever expire? It's my understanding you could take that in years later and still get the repair work done, right?
That's correct.
All right. What do we have from LaRuthia?
She writes, I bought a 2020 SUV in January of 2022. I have an extended warranty and my engine needs to be replaced because of oil consumption issues. The warranty company says that it isn't covered. The engine repair cost is between $8,000 and $12,000. I did research. This is a known issue for my make and model. What can I do? So the question, am I entitled to extended warranty coverage for my engine?
So you do a lot of work with warranties. What are your thoughts?
First, it depends on what the specific warranty says that was purchased with the vehicle. It may be that it's not covered by the terms of that warranty. So that's the first thing to look at. If it does appear that it would be something covered by your warranty that you purchased, contact the warranty company, and oftentimes the dealer will assist in trying to get coverage where there's been a wrongful denial of that. If it is something that should be covered by the extended warranty, you could get a lawyer involved. Also in Wisconsin, our Office of Commissioner of Insurance regulates these extended warranties. They're considered contracts of insurance, so you can contact them. If it's not something that's included in the terms and the coverage of the extended warranty purchase, again, she says it's a known issue, so it doesn't hurt to contact the manufacturer directly because there may be an extended warranty through the manufacturer, or some type of recall that would provide some assistance.
From your experience, do warranties tend to cover things like engine repair?
It all depends on the warranty you purchase. Some of them are very narrow and very limited in what they cover. Others are comprehensive to the powertrain, which is what the engine is a part of. So it may or may not be, just depending on the warranty that you purchased.
All right, good luck to you, LaRuthia. Who's next?
Next is Marla from Elkhart Lake. Marla is wondering if you've been getting complaints about the state of the RV industry, including campers and motorhomes, since COVID.
Have you been hearing about this issue? We hear about it from time to time, but I don't think we've heard anything in a while. Have you gotten complaints or handled cases involving RVs and campers, motorhomes?
Yes, and I would say it's not just RVs or campers, it's a lot of vehicles. Since COVID, there seems to have been a change in the inventory that's carried for parts, so parts availability is more difficult, or just the supply chain in general isn't the same. There's also a shortage of employees working at the dealerships, working on repairs to things. Motorhomes are a little bit different because they aren't mass produced the same way that a vehicle is. So there are oftentimes a number of different problems that can come up in their manufacturing process.
So could it take longer as you wait for parts and the motorhome might sit at a dealership for a while?
Absolutely.
Okay. I hope if you have an RV, Marla, I hope you get it running soon. What is our next question?
Our next one comes from Angela in St. Francis. She writes, I recently had some work done on my car due to a recall, and they found 2 other issues that needed to be fixed as well. I was able to get one of them fixed, a purge valve. This is a key component in emissions control. I went to pick up my vehicle and nobody showed me where it was. They had me sign some paperwork and pay first. After I got in my vehicle and drove for a few hours, the check engine light came back on. I tried to go for emissions and failed. I still have problems with the purge valve. I contacted the dealership but got no response. So the question here is, what are my options if a dealership didn't fix my problem?
It sounds difficult when you're trying to get, resolution, but the dealership isn't contacting you back. Do you run into this from time to time, and what should people do?
I do run into that. A lot of times I'll recommend that you actually go to the dealership in person because it's harder to ignore someone who's there at the dealership as opposed to a phone call, a text, or an email. So I would definitely go back to the dealership if this person paid for a repair to the purge valve and that in fact is still the problem. There may be a warranty on the work or the part that was done as far as that repair. If you're not getting anywhere with the dealership directly, a complaint can be filed with the Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, and they may be able to provide some assistance. Another option, depending on the price of the repair, if you're not satisfied and you're not getting anywhere else, you could again go to small claims court.
This is something that I hear about quite a bit, the idea of you bring in a vehicle for a repair, you get it back and it's still not working. In that case, if you go back to the dealer, should they say, we'll repair this at no cost to you, or do they not have to fix it if they say, well, we already did the work, and if it's not working, it's something else?
It may be something else.
Yeah.
Sometimes that is the case. Other times I have seen situations where a part that was replaced was actually replaced with another faulty part, and it may be covered by that part's warranty, or it may be related. Sometimes there are different layers to it, especially if it's a check engine light problem. Check engine lights can come on for many different problems, and it may be that they fix one thing and then that reveals that there's something else that's still wrong.
Sometimes we advise people to go to another mechanic and get their opinion and then bring that documentation back. Would that be useful in a case like this?
Sure.
Right. Just to have another professional opinion, give a little weight to your argument. Maybe they'll take it a little more seriously.
Right.
Okay. What do we have next?
This one comes from Jenny in Milwaukee. She writes, I bought a vehicle from an online auto dealership in 2023. The return policy is 7 days if you're not satisfied. The vehicle had smoke coming from the engine on the 7th day. When I called, I was told it was after 5 p.m. and I could not return the vehicle. Since then, I've had more than 10 repairs done. I'm currently unable to drive it due to more issues that will cost me $2,000. I'm still paying the car note and I'm unable to drive it. I have receipts for most of the repairs. I have made complaints to the platform with no success. So Jenny's question, am I entitled to a return from an online auto dealership?
This sounds really frustrating for Jenny. The idea of missing your window by hours, is that something that they could enforce, saying it's after 5 p.m., the business day is over?
It depends on what the specific policy is. Unfortunately, online car purchases and retailers are difficult to go after. They all have different policies. Some of them are a no return policy. If in fact there were problems with the vehicle, you should have recourse in that situation. In her case, because she bought it in 2023, something to be mindful of is a statute of limitations on being able to bring some type of action against them. You may have to go to the place where the business is located, not here in Wisconsin, because you may run into some jurisdictional issues on that. With the online purchases, it can be complicated.
This might be a good example of when you might want to post reviews on social media, try to get the attention of an online business that may want to, take care of its reputation. Do you ever advise people to try that route?
If you've exhausted other options with them and they're not giving you satisfaction, that certainly is the way to go.
Okay, so file complaints in the state the business is based in. Could you file complaints in Wisconsin, or is that really no point?
You could try, but if they don't do business here in Wisconsin, our state doesn't have any ability to regulate them.
Yeah, I have to imagine it's difficult with online dealerships because you can't walk into the business and you can't demand they pay attention to you. Is this kind of a buyer beware, or maybe a warning for people who decide to go that route?
It is difficult. If you're doing an online purchase, you really need to do your homework before you follow through with that.
Okay. Yeah, I have 10 repairs done. I'm assuming it's not a new car, because then it might be a lemon law issue.
It wouldn't be for our state, but you'd have to go to wherever the dealer is located. I have had cases where someone may have purchased a vehicle in New York and then has it transported to Wisconsin. It's not covered by our state lemon law because it wasn't purchased here. So it would be something where they'd need an attorney in New York to help.
Okay, Jenny, good luck to you. What is our next question, Annette?
This one comes from Andrew in Waukesha. He writes, I would like to get the attention to an auto dealer. The dealer sold me a new vehicle, but is failing to repair pre-delivery damage. I have their promise in writing. They are not responded to repeated inquiries about scheduling the repair. So the question, how do I get the dealer to fix pre-delivery damage?
We're getting a lot of questions about repairs, but I thought this one was interesting because it's not like the damage happened when they started driving it. It happened before. Do they have a case here?
They would. It depends on what this promise is that the dealer gave them, because that's very fact specific. So depending on what exactly the dealer agreed to do, if it is pre-delivery damage, sometimes there's transport damage with new cars that happens before it gets delivered to the dealership. So there's a different process for that. It might be something that the manufacturer is responsible for. If it was something that occurred in the dealer's hands before the vehicle was sold and they're not getting any satisfaction, again, that's a situation where I would recommend going to the dealership. Getting the attention of the general manager should provide some assistance and make sure that they show them the promise that they were given. And a lot of times in these situations, hindsight's 2020, I always recommend, if you know something's wrong with a car before you buy it, get it fixed before you agree to follow through with the purchase.
I assume what helps Andrew is he says, I have the promise in writing. That probably helps a great deal.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, we get cases like this to Contact 6. So, Andrew, if you want to try submitting an online complaint form to us, we could reach out to the business on your behalf and send that promise along with it. And maybe that would be an avenue you could try as well. And again, hearing about repeated inquiries not being responded to. So sometimes you just have to walk in that door and demand attention. All right. What do we have from Angel, is it?
Yes, Angel's from Milwaukee. Angel says, we believe my son's car was struck by lightning a couple months ago. He was having trouble with the car and refused to drive it. He took it to the dealership, which has had it ever since. They say they are doing repairs, but have not said what repairs or what the cause was for the repairs. Because they haven't said what the problem is, my son can't submit a claim to insurance. I'm also wondering if he could have submitted a claim to FEMA. Right now, he has a loaner vehicle. He's frustrated, getting no answers, and contemplating getting a lawyer. What can he do? So the question, how do I get answers from my dealership about a repair?
And I'm assuming this is difficult for Angel because his car is sitting with this dealership. How do you go about demanding answers?
Well, I think the first thing that struck me with this question is, if a dealership has your vehicle, they have a duty to get your authorization before they do anything to it, whether it's a warranty repair, if your insurance might be covering it, or you're paying out of pocket. Anytime a dealership is doing work on your vehicle, they have to keep you informed and they have to get your authorization. So it doesn't sound like the shop is doing that in this situation. I would talk to the service manager who runs the service department for more information, or again, go to the general manager of the dealership because they're not following their required practices here.
Are there any hard rules when it comes to a timeline for getting answers as to what's wrong with your vehicle and what they can do to help?
Not specifically, but if they're not getting satisfaction from the dealership after going there and trying to escalate things to management, they can file a complaint with the State Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, and they may be able to get the dealership's attention. The good thing with dealerships is they are regulated and licensed by the state, so once the state gets involved, they tend to move quickly on things.
I was struck when she said her son can't submit a claim to insurance. Is the time ticking on that? Should he be concerned that they may not be able to get the claim in time, or is the dealership obligated to get information to insurance in a certain amount of time?
There isn't anything that specifically requires a dealership to provide information, and in terms of the insurance company and what their requirements are, that would be something to talk to the insurance agent about.
Okay. I hope you are able to get your car back soon, Angel. Is our question next from Joe?
Yeah, Joe's from Sheboygan. He says, my daughter bought a 2010 vehicle from a dealership that went out of business. The car had a recall, so we took it to another dealership. When we got it back, the check engine light was on. Then the motor blew up. The dealership said they couldn't do anything about it because of the vehicle's age and because they only worked on the vehicle's subframe. I'm a mechanic, and I think they messed with something else. The question, what can I do about problems after a recall repair?
I'm sure you hear about this as well as often as we do, the idea that you bring in a car and it actually, they didn't fix the problem, or maybe they made a problem worse. What can this person do?
So I think it depends on what the problem was that they brought it in for and what the recall covered. If in fact something happened in the course of the recall repair, that would be something that the manufacturer would be responsible for as well. The National Highway Transportation and Safety Administration is the place that regulates recalls. So it may relate to the recall, it may not. If it's something that happened as they suspect that the shop did something else to the vehicle unrelated to the recall, then that's a situation where I would file a complaint with the State Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection, because that's a faulty repair or some other negligence by the repair shop.
So that wouldn't be a matter for the state, that would be the repair shop.
Correct.
Okay, so even though it's a recall, it's similar to other repairs in that regard, even though you were bringing it in for the manufacturer issue. The shop is still responsible for other damage that might happen to the car.
Yes, if it's not related to the recall and it was something that happened in the course of the repair.
Okay, and again, get an independent mechanic to take a look at it maybe, support some of your claims. And I know he says he's a mechanic, but he should probably find someone else.
It's always best to have someone independent look at it, yes.
All right, do we have our last question, Annette?
Yes, our last one comes from Prizel in Milwaukee. Prizel writes, what can I do about my car? I paid $13,000 down and put 33,000 miles on it. The car is not running right. I have to put it in neutral when I stop, otherwise it will shut off. Also, I had the engine replaced and now it is worse 6 months later. I called the dealership to speak with a manager but got no return call. What are my options? So the question, can I make my dealership repair my car?
So it sounds like he's had this car for a while, enough time to put 33,000 miles on it. I'm wondering if he needs to try a different dealership or try someone else to repair. What do you think he should do at this point if they're not returning his calls?
Well, if it's something that's related to the engine being replaced 6 months ago, going back to the shop that did that work is probably the best first step, because there may be a parts warranty. A lot of times remanufactured engines are installed in vehicles, not new. So those come with their own warranties. So going back to the place where they had the work done in the first place, they may have some coverage for that. If the shop isn't cooperating, again, it's a situation where I would just go down there and talk to somebody and escalate it to management. And if you get nowhere at that point, then contact the State Department of Agriculture, Trade, and Consumer Protection.
Okay, you can also try Contact 6. We get complaints about this kind of thing as well, but that is a difficult one once you've had the car for a certain amount of time. But you also are entitled to the dealership, I think, you purchased it from, paying attention to you.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you so much for answering these questions with us today, and thank you for everyone who submitted them. That is all the time we have for today. If you would like to submit a question for a future Ask Contact 6 segment, you can go to fox6now.com and click on the blue Ask Contact 6 button. Susan, thanks again for being here. Thanks also to all the people who make this recording possible, including our manager, Brian Graham, Craig Sweeney Graphics, Chief Photojournalist Cale Zimney, and our editor, Dave Machuda, who is also on the video switcher today. I'm Jenna Sachs. Thanks for joining us.